Some of the most life-changing moments begin as humiliations. On a damp evening when the city lights blurred through the rain-streaked windows, a weary black man entered a busy restaurant carrying nothing but a worn wallet and a few coins. He wanted nothing more than a warm meal and a place to rest. The manager behind the counter looked at him the way some people look at something disposable. When the man placed his coins on the counter, the manager scoffed and let them spill loudly into the tray as if tossing away scraps. No one in that room realized that the man they belittled was not only a paying customer but also the soon-to-be owner of the very restaurant in which they mocked him. The restaurant sat on a busy avenue, famous for glowing neon signs and late-night tourists. People lined up for its quick meals and affordable prices. Yet behind the cheerful advertisements and polished counters, there was an unspoken culture of judgment. Quick smiles for those who looked wealthy, curt dismissals for those who didn't. Marcus had lived in the same city for years. In his younger days, he worked as a laborer, then as a foreman, then as a contractor. Over time, through discipline and good judgment, he built small businesses in construction and maintenance. He was far from poor now, but he never wore expensive suits unless meetings demanded it. That rainy evening, after visiting one of his building sites, Marcus stopped for a meal on his way home. His boots were dusty, his jacket damp from the rain, his hands rough from the day's work. When he stepped into the warm, crowded restaurant, he saw students chatting over fries, tourists clutching maps, and office workers staring at their phones. He joined the line quietly, clutching the few coins he had separated for dinner. Most of his cash had been left in his truck. The rest of his funds were in the bank. He only wanted a simple meal. The manager on duty, Rick, noticed him as soon as he approached the counter. Rick had a sharp eye for customers he considered worth serving and those he deemed a waste of time. He smirked when Marcus ordered a basic meal and began counting his coins carefully. "Seriously? Coins?" Rick muttered loudly enough for others to hear. He pinched the change between his fingers and let it drop into the cash tray with a loud clatter. "Next time, come prepared," he added. A few customers glanced over and chuckled. Others looked away, embarrassed. Marcus said nothing. He collected his receipt, waited for his food, and carried it to a quiet corner. No one there knew that Marcus had, just days earlier, finalized an agreement to acquire a portfolio of struggling businesses, one of which was the very restaurant where he now sat, eating in silence, his dignity intact, but his heart heavy. Marcus could have revealed his status that night, but he didn't. He believed that actual change takes time and must reach deeper than one person's insult. Over the following weeks, he continued the process of acquiring the restaurant chain. Quietly, he reviewed reports, staff lists, and customer feedback. What he found disturbed him. Complaints about rude treatment often came from people who didn't look the part. Construction workers, delivery drivers, seniors, and especially customers of color. Yet these complaints had been ignored by management. Marcus also learned that Rick had been promoted not because of his kindness or professionalism, but because he was efficient at cutting costs. His focus on appearances over service had gone unchecked for years. During this period, Marcus visited the restaurant several times in plain clothes. He sat in the back, watched how staff treated different customers, and noticed a pattern. Those who appeared wealthy were greeted warmly. Those who looked tired or worn from work were often met with impatience. He thought about his own early years, about the times he had been underestimated because of his skin, his clothes, or the calluses on his hands. The memory stirred something old but still raw. Finally, when the acquisition paperwork was complete, Marcus requested a full staff meeting at the restaurant. He arrived early on a gray Monday morning, wearing a neat suit but no tie. The workers gathered reluctantly, whispering among themselves. Rick walked in last, looking slightly irritated that his morning routine had been interrupted. Marcus introduced himself. "Good morning. I'm Marcus Grant. As of last Friday, I'm the new majority owner of this restaurant." The room went quiet. Some employees exchanged surprised glances. Others straightened their posture. Rick's confident smirk faded into confusion. Marcus began to speak, not about sales or profits, but about respect. He recounted in calm tones how he had once come in as an ordinary customer with just a few coins in his pocket. He described the way he had been looked at, the way the coins had been tossed as though they were beneath notice. He didn't mention Rick by name, but everyone in the room understood. A few of the younger staff shifted uncomfortably, suddenly aware of how often they had seen similar scenes. Marcus went on. A restaurant is more than food. It's a place where people come to feel welcome. If we measure people by the weight of their wallets, we've already failed. Some nodded. Others kept their eyes down. Rick remained silent, a flush creeping up his neck. By noon, word of the new owner had spread. The restaurant, usually busy, was even more crowded as curious regulars arrived to see the man behind the story. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. Marcus entered through the front door rather than the staff entrance. He moved with quiet confidence, greeting a few customers as he passed. He stopped at the counter where Rick stood, stiff and unusually subdued. In a voice that carried without needing to rise, Marcus addressed the customers and staff. He spoke of how respect would now be the foundation of the restaurant's service. He outlined new training programs, fairer policies, and a commitment to treating every guest as valued. We can serve fast food, he said, but there's no excuse for serving it without dignity. Rick, shifting uncomfortably, began to stammer an apology. Marcus raised a hand gently and said, "This isn't about embarrassing anyone. It's about changing what we accept as normal." The crowd, comprising both customers and employees, fell silent. A woman near the door nodded in approval. A delivery driver, still in his raincoat, murmured a soft, "About time." Marcus then did something unexpected. He handed out envelopes, modest bonuses for every staff member who had earned consistent praise for kindness and customer feedback. It was a way of showing that dignity could be rewarded just as much as speed or profit. Rick received no envelope. Instead, Marcus invited him to a private meeting after closing time to discuss whether he was willing and able to embrace the new culture. Rick, humbled, could only nod. The scene, a man once mocked for paying with coins now leading the very place where he was belittled, became the story people in the city repeated for weeks. For many, it was more than a tale of personal triumph. It was a poignant reminder of the invisible barriers that prejudice erects and how easily they crumble when confronted by integrity. In the months that followed, the restaurant underwent a quiet transformation. The decor was refreshed, but the most visible change was in the atmosphere. Employees were trained not only in efficiency, but also in empathy and compassion. New policies ensured that all complaints of discrimination were investigated and addressed. Customers noticed. The restaurant, once known for rushed service and judgmental looks, became a place where travelers, workers, and families alike felt welcome. Reviews praised not just the food, but also the friendliness and warmth of the staff. Rick stayed on for a time, undergoing training and mentoring. Eventually, he admitted that he had much to unlearn and chose to step down, moving on to start anew elsewhere. Marcus never told the story of his first visit in a boastful way. When people asked why he hadn't revealed his ownership on that humiliating night, he always answered the same. Because what mattered wasn't proving them wrong in that moment. It was changing the place so that no one else would have to feel what I felt. The story spread beyond the city. Bloggers and local news outlets picked it up as an example of leadership meeting prejudice with quiet strength. For many viewers, it became a reminder that those who appear poor may be the very ones building the future. The restaurant thrived, not just in profits, but in purpose. Regulars often pointed to Marcus as proof that respect is the actual currency of business. New employees were told the story during training, not to shame anyone, but to remind them of the importance of dignity and respect. In a world where people are still judged by appearance, by accent, by the contents of their wallets, Marcus's journey became more than a tale of business success. It became a lesson in humility and in hope, and it leaves each of us with a question worth asking. If we met someone on their hardest day, carrying only a few coins, would we treat them as less or as an equal human being worthy of respect?